bit about mechanics, or as I've kind of come to know it as I've researched this presentation, the language of calling and square dancing. This is key for everybody in the room. For those of you who are brand new, or Group 0, Group 1 people, this is a language we're going to be talking about all week. So I'm about to give you a lot of new words and new terms. This is all in your syllabus. I would check it out. Those of you who've already been calling a while, my challenge and encouragement to you is to get what you know this weekend. Focus on what we're going to teach you. Focus on the school. Trust the process this school has, and you'll pick up a lot. And the first step there is making sure we're all on the same page in terms of vocabulary. So let's just start looking at a square. We all know this is a square, right? And I've explicitly used in this presentation the tamination style. For those of you, I'm sure almost everyone in this room has played with taminations. If not, you will by the end of the weekend. We know that unfortunately in square dancing it's a little bit of a man's world. For most of the terms we're going to be giving you, the way we're going to be describing the square, we're going to be referring to the number one man here as our primary. So when we talk about relationships and everyone else in the square, we're going to talk about their position in relation to this dude right here. He's kind of important. I think we already know corner and partner. You know that from your first days of square dance lessons, right? But now we need to name everybody else in the square as it relates to this fella here. So first, over here to his right, and he stuck out his right hand and pointed at her, we have this lady. We call her the right hand lady. Directly across the square from our friend here, we have his opposite lady. These ladies may or may not bring partners with them. We'll just call them the opposite man and the right hand man. Now here's a question for all of you of any skill level. What do we call this dude?
Leftover.
I'm just going to call him George because I have looked all throughout all the technical documentation I can find. I have asked world-class collar coaches, nobody knows. Or we'll just call him the left-hand man because we ran out of other names. Something I want to point out early is, for the most part, we're going to use our number one homie here to talk about the primary, but especially a lot of the women callers, so men can do it as well. I want to point out this works if we flop it. So we can also look at the square from the lady's perspective. And the thing I want to point out is that while we're always talking about the number one man, every person has these relationships. You know, the number one lady has an opposite lady. The number one lady has a partner, has a corner, and we generally talk about her left-hand man since we flopped it all. But we can also say that if the number two man were our primary, and his name is Vernon Jones.
Where was the left-hand man at? I don't see him.
In Texas, they like steers. We know that the number two man has his own opposite, his own right hand, right? So just keep that in mind. We're going to focus on the number one, but this can shift. And of course, in that case, yeah, what do we call that person when we're in the lady perspective? I'm just going to go with Georgina. I got nothing better. Who's heard of phaser before? Or phaser, as the cool people might like to call it. I'm more of a Star Wars fan. This is how we describe a square. So you're calling along at any given state. How do I describe that square to you, another caller? Because it doesn't really work to say, yeah, George is holding Sally's right hand and the guy with the blue shirt's behind her. Right? That is not a good way to teach and a good way for us to communicate. So we came up with phaser. Who can tell me what the F stands for? Formation. That's perfect. We'll talk about what each of these are. For now, though, I want you to tune your ears in based on your skill level. Group 1 callers, the folks that are very new. Formation you already know a little bit of. But I'm going to look for you this weekend and throughout this entire experience to get really good at this. A is?
Arrangement.
Very good. We'll talk about that in a second. What is the S? Sequence. And the R? Relationship. Very good. Phaser, formation, arrangement, sequence, and relationship. Formation is the building block, and that's the thing I want everyone to really focus in on, especially our new callers. You must know this. In fact, throughout this weekend, you must learn many formations. One thing I want to point out here is when you look at our square here, these dancers, there aren't circles and squares. They have no gender, they have no identity, they aren't fat, big, tall, small. All they have are clown noses, pointing out which direction they're facing. So we know this is a static square. Let's see, and I'm talking to my group 1 people here. So I really want my group 1 people to answer and everyone else to shh for right now. Can anyone tell me what we call this? Facing couples. Very good. If we put 2 sets of facing couples next to each other, what do we call this? Facing lines, very good. If we rotate that a little bit, kind of what would it look like after a head square through 4, what do we call this? An 8 chain through. It would be, because what call could we do from here? 8 chain through, very good. Let's quiz on a few more. Can anyone tell me what we call this? And I'll encourage my group 2 people, you can start chiming in now. Double pass through, aptly named, because what would we often do from here? Double pass through. And what do we call this critter here? Ah, very good. Collar Lab got really clever with some of these names, let me tell you. All right, what about this critter here? Good, and the thing I want you all to be focusing on is, can you translate this picture to what it looks like to squares on the floor? I believe to be a really effective caller and to learn, you have to know what it looks like from a heads down. Even though we always look at it from the side, you need to understand the geometry. So especially my group 1 people, I want you thinking about this. What would this look like on the floor? And then, again, group 2, you can chime in. Can you tell me what this is? Very good. There is a chart in your appendix, you can also get it online, that has every formation that Colorado has currently identified. So we see the things we talked about here. Here's the facing couples. There are left-hand boxes. I want you to look at that after this presentation going into your next section. Find that in your syllabus, and when you don't know what something's called this weekend, look it up and learn the real name, right? That's your homework. Everyone work on that this weekend. Arrangement. So our formation boxes didn't have gender. Arrangement's where you bring gender into it and say, this is where the boys and girls are in relationship to each other. The simplest way to say this is normal or half sashayed. So if the boy's on the left, the girl's on the right, and they're a facing couple, or they're in a couple situation, we call that normal. When we have this situation where the boy, who is boxy and pointy, because boys are always boxy and pointy, is on the right-hand side of the girl, we'll call that half sashayed. When we have 2 boxy boys together, we're just going to say boys together. And we have 2 beautiful round girls together, we're just going to call that girls together. This is the simplest application, and we can expand that into our facing couples and facing lines. I've talked about it a little bit earlier. There's a number scheme that I want to call out exists, and then point out that we're not going to use it a lot this weekend. But I want you to know it's there. Colorado has assigned numbers to each of these, so Colorado will say that this is a 0 arrangement. Notice the boys on the left, we'll call that normal. Here the boys on the right, we'll call that half sashayed, or the half. If the boys are together on the left, we'll call that 1. Girls together on the left, we'll call that 2. The thing I really want you to focus on this weekend, though, is not to get lost in the mire of 0, 1, 2, 3. I just want you to know that those arrangements are possible. And I need you to see when you're calling, am I half sashayed, am I normal? You need to know that. And you need to know where your boys are, where your girls are. Sometimes normal and half sashayed just isn't sufficient to describe the state of the set. So what we encourage people to do is pretend the caller is standing right here, where that 0 is, looking at the square this way. We're going to read it from left to right. Boxy boy, girl, girl, boy. See that? Boy, girl, girl, boy. And we'll call that a boy, girl, girl, boy ocean wave. Here, looking at it left to right, this is a girl, boy, boy, girl ocean wave. Here's a boy, girl, ocean wave, and here's a girl, boy, ocean wave. Again, they have numbers, but as long as you can describe it in a way that you can talk to the coaches can talk to you, you're doing really good for this weekend. Again, there's an arrangement chart, just like the formations. This one you don't have to reference as often, but I want you all to know it's there, look through it, and as you advance in your calling career, maybe our tier 3, tier 4 people, these are the times when you start knowing the numbers, looking at all the different possibilities that can exist. So let's play a little game. I would like my group 1 people to give me the formation, and my group 2 people to give me the arrangement, if possible, and if you don't know it, that's okay. What is this formation again? Very good, and the arrangement is? No, not a corner box. That is giving us more information. What is the arrangement of boys and girls? Very good. Let's look at this setup. What is the formation? What is the arrangement? And why? Because the girl is on the left of the boy if I look at any of these individual couples. How about this one? This is getting a new situation. What do we call this formation? Notice the Clown noses are pointing, showing which way they're facing. It's a right-hand column. And how would we describe this arrangement? Again, pretend the caller is standing here, looking up at it like this, reading it from left to right. We would say it is girl, boy, for a column. What about this? The square changed direction. Does that matter? It is still what formation? And in this situation, I like to think of the caller as standing here or here, looking at it to read it from left to right, along the wrong side. So how would we call this arrangement? You could say boy, girl, but remember we just turned it. Is the boy on the left of the girl, or are they facing the same direction? So we could call this, very good. What formation is this? Notice our facing directions are different. The clown noses are pointing opposite ways. Two-faced line, a right-handed two-faced line. And what arrangement is this? Because the girl is on the left of the boy, we call that half-side shade. Last one here. Oh, that's a really unfortunate line down the middle of my square, isn't it? For those of you that can use your imagination, what do we call this? In group 3 and group 4, you can chime in here. It is a tidal, two-faced line, particularly of the right-hand variety. And how would we describe this arrangement? Very good. Let's talk about sequence now. Sequence is one of the hardest things to see, and it's one of the hardest things to explain. I really racked my brain about how to talk about this. But I want you to remember that we look at the square going counterclockwise. In my head, I like to pretend I'm a NASCAR driver going around the outside of the square, because in NASCAR they just always turn left. And I look out my driver's side window and look what I see. So if my race car were going around the square, hope I don't wreck, I want to count the boys as I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just keep going in that direction. I can also count the girls. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm in my little NASCAR car and I find 1, 4, we crash and we call that out of sequence. So again, counterclockwise, if the numbers match up, you're in sequence. If you run into a number not in the series, 1, 4, you're out of sequence. Regardless of the formation you're in, we're always going to go counterclockwise. So notice here I have a two-faced line. Over here, I have a two-faced line as well. It's kind of a neat trick, Travis. We still go counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this square is 1, 4, 3, 2. Very good. Let's point out that the boys and girls can have different sequences. So here, the boys are 1, 2, 3, 4, going this direction. They are. Girls are. Very good. Now, I'm not going to do the little pointer thing. I'm going to let you go around the square counterclockwise. The boys are. Because 1, 4, 3, 2. The girls are. Very good. Let's try some different formations. Again, going this direction. And I put this little thing up here to help remind you what direction we go. Boys are. Girls are. Good. I was supposed to ask you that stuff too. I forgot to. What is this formation? What is this arrangement? What is this sequence? Very good. Can everyone see that? If you can't see that, I want you to kind of take a moment here and look at it a little harder. I don't want to leave you in the dust because this is very important. What formation is this? Right-hand column is very good. Arrangement? Again, pretend you're down here facing in. It is girl, boy. And sequence, boys, if I look at it going this way, 1, 4, out of sequence. Girls, 1, 4. Everybody's out of sequence. Formation? Two-faced lines. Arrangement? Normal, because the boy's on the left. Sequence? Boys are out, girls are in. See that. 1, 4, crash. 1, 2, yay. Last couple here. Formation. Right-handed column. Arrangement. Very good. Boy, boy, girl, girl. Sequence. Even when they're close to each other, we still go this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Very good. Last one here. Formation. Right-handed column. Arrangement. Boy, girl. Sequence. Boys are out. Girls are out. Everyone's out of sequence. So that leaves us the final letter, which is R for relationship. So far we know where they're standing, we know what gender they started the tip as, and we know if they're in the order they need to be. Relationship adds in that very first bit of vocabulary we said. Where is my partner? Where is my corner? Where is my right-hand lady? Where is my opposite in relation to myself? This is the most advanced of the concepts. This will be a whole different presentation. We're just going to try to talk about the things I think you really need going in today and tomorrow. Let's look at this square, or let's look at this couple first. We know that they're partners, yes? Basic building block. What if we expanded it to also look at the people across from them? What relationship does my number 1 man here have with this number 4 lady? Very good. Then what relationship does she have with George here? Excellent. Something else I want to point out is we can cut the square up 2 different ways. We can look at it that way on the left, or we can look at it long ways. So if we ignore the people in front of us, instead look at the people in our line, what do we call this lady in relation? What do we call this lady down here in relationship to this guy? You all are paying attention. It's very good. That's going to become really important, especially for our group 3 and group 4 people, that it's not always the people right in front of you. We want you to know your relationship looking down the line as well. So let's do a few exercises. Looking at these 2 people here, what is their relationship? Very good. These 2 people, what is their relationship? Again, we're talking about the number 1 man. They are opposites, yes. That's the opposite number 1 man. And looking at these people on the outside, what is their relationship? Very good. Let's look over here. Yeah, you can go down that left from there. That's exciting. You know, but this one looks pretty similar. I wonder if we ever call an element left from here accidentally. What is the relationship of these 2 people? My number 1 man and his? My number 1 man has who beside him? And the people on the outside, my right-hand lady, what does she have? Very good. Let's talk, jumped ahead a little too far. Oh, this is when the cool presentation backfires. Don't you hate it when that happens? So now you get to watch all the cool things play, because I jumped too fast. Ooh, look at the pretty red line move around. Come on. You ever have a fast forward button? So let's put it all together. You know about formation, you know about arrangement, you know about sequence, you know about relationship. If we put these 4 things together and we give it a name, we call that a total phaser, or total phaser. So let's look at this very important formation. What is the formation? We already know, let me say this first, in the relationship, that number 1 man is facing his corner, the ends have their partner, he currently has his opposite. What is the formation to start with this? A chain through. What is the arrangement? Arrangement is normal because the boy is on the left. And the sequence, everybody's in sequence. We call this beautiful thing the corner box, or the place you call element left. Very important. The result of a head square through 4. This is the most important thing for everyone in this room to be able to see starting today when you're in this situation. Let's look at this one over here on the right. Again, we talked about this one. We know that the number 1 man is facing his right-hand lady, the ends of the partner. We also know it's a chain through, right? We know that they're normal and they're out of sequence. What do you think we call this? It's exactly the same sort of, but it's out of sequence. Right-hand lady box. Very good. And we call it that because, again, it's a man's world. We care about number 1 man is looking at his corner, right? Everyone's looking at their corner. Over here, everyone's looking at their right-hand lady. Call it right-hand lady box. I only need you to know two more. What is the formation? What is the arrangement? Sequence. What is the relationship of these two people together? And there. We're going to call this a partner line. This one looks pretty similar, doesn't it? We know it's facing lines. What is the arrangement? There's a voice on the left, it's normal. What is different about this one, though? Therefore, we might call this a partner line out of sequence. So those four things, they're in your syllabus. They are in your, choreography helper. That's one of those important things for you to learn. But let's talk about something that kind of goes extremely hard to see, but is extremely important sometimes. Symmetry. This is the key that makes all square dancing work. I'm going to give you kind of the technical definition, and then we're going to blow past that and give you the useful things. So symmetry means that if I draw a line between my number one man and his opposite, and then I draw a line between that, put a mirror on it called the line of symmetry, they're going to be in the exact same place on either side of that line. Let's put that to good use. My number one man and his opposite, my number three man, let's draw a line between them. Let's draw a line through that called the line of symmetry. And so I know that my number one man is here, my number three man is going to be there. Let's look at this scenario. My number one man is here. I draw a line from him to number three, put the line down the middle. That is called symmetry because he's where he belongs. Let's play a little game. Where is the number three man? Behind what door is the number three man? Answers for yourselves. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. What door is he supposed to be in? All right, now you can say out loud. He's number one man. There we go. It's behind door four. Where is the number three girl? The opposite of the number one girl. Very good. Looking at this here, so let's say this is all you know about your square. Do you have enough information to know where everybody else is? So when we're calling and we're working along, one of the first questions we usually have to ask is, where the heck is our corner? This number three lady here. So how can I find the number three lady? I'm sorry, the number four lady. She's right there. Next thing I might want to know is, where's my partner, the number one lady? Well, I don't see her here. So do I have enough information to know? Well, I can look and see that I have the number three lady. So behind which door is my number one lady? Three. Very good. Let's go around the set. Who do you think is behind door number one? Well, I look down here across at the symmetry, and I see that it's the number two man. His opposite is the number four man. So I bet I'll find the number four man. George. Y'all kind of get the point here? Then you go through who's behind door number two? Who's behind door number four? Very good. Let's look at this set. Well, I know my primaries are together. My number one couples are together, and I see number two across from me, so I know I don't have my corner. I need to find my corner. What information do I need to find the number four lady? You need the number two lady, and I have her, so therefore, what door is my corner going to be behind? Very good. We can also just say that now I looked and I figured out where my number two man is. So that tells me where my number four man is. He is behind door number.
Okay, I don't get the door thing at all. I don't know what
Okay.
the doors stand for.
Well, so the doors are just my way of hiding it from you. So I've got numbers on them. So this is just simply, you don't know who's behind it. So what I want you to take away from this is, if I know where the number one man is, I don't need to know what's behind that. I know that behind that card is the number three man. Does that help at all?
But I don't know. How do I know what's the doors represent? What does doors represent?
The doors are just blocking the view from you. The doors are not trying to teach you anything beyond not letting you see who's back there, because I'm trying to help you see you don't need to know. You don't need to see them to know who's back there.
You see those three that gives you enough information to ascertain where all the other is.
The numbers don't matter. Again, I'm just blocking it from you, so you know that if I ask you where the number 3 man is, you look at the number 1 man, look across the square, and behind that box, they will appear. Let's talk about asymmetry, which is what happens when the rules I just described aren't true. You look across the square and you find the wrong person. You were calling along and you had some really cool stuff, and this is what you wanted to happen, right? Ah, that's great. I call it some cool choreography. This is what you actually got. It didn't exactly go according to your plan. I'm just saying. Asymmetry is a lack of symmetry, and it usually means somebody made an oopsie. It may have been you with poor judgment. It may have been the dancers with poor listening skills. But I want to point out that if we look at this, we would expect, based on the number 1 man, that if I look up here, I'm going to find the number 3 man. Yep. But I don't. That number 2 jerk's there. That is asymmetry. Now, maybe you did this on purpose. There are some gimmicks where you may have had these people on the right do a right and left through, but for the purposes of this school, if you don't already have memorized gimmick, when you find yourself in this situation, abort. Something has gone wrong, go find another square, or just tell them all to go home, because you're not going to resolve the square this way. Not without a really annoying sequence the dancers probably won't enjoy anyway. So just tell them to go home. Last thing I want to point out is, again, formation, arrangement, sequence, and relationship. This is a little bit of a stair-step we climb. So a game that I like to play at home is, especially with my newer callers I'm working with, if you and I are just going back and forth, and I say head square through 4, I would hope you as a new caller could say soon after that, we're in an 8 chain through position, right? You can measure your skill level based on how well you know this stuff. A more intermediate caller will be able to say, after that square through 4, we're in an 8 chain through, and we're normal arrangement. Even more seasoned caller would say, yeah, and we're in sequence. And then the very best callers would then be able to say we're in a corner box. And as you go on, you go 10 calls down the line, and that caller knows where their corner is, where their partner is. They don't have to sit and look. Most of us aren't there yet. And that's okay. It gives us something to attain to. Any questions about this? I'm going to encourage y'all to find your syllabus, look at the stuff in the back, and reference it as we go so you know what's going on. All right, I think we'll give you a potty break. We'll be in our rooms. Jack's going to talk to you. So, before